Hi, Adams. Happy Friday. To finish up our week, we are going to talk about some important cases that have happened in the Supreme Court in history. So I'd like to highlight a couple really important cases that not only affected the people that were in the case, but affect everybody continuing forward. So just to review, what cases does the Supreme Court take? They receive about 10,000 requests a year for different cases to take. And since they cannot possibly take all these cases, the justices use the rule of four. So basically, they vote, and if four or more judges think the case has value, they take it. So there are 9 judges, at least 4 of them have to say, yes, this is an important case. For them to be able to actually take the case to the Supreme Court. Again, it's so important. These cases are so important because they create a precedent, which means that all other cases following this will follow that decision. So if something 10 years later happened in another court, a smaller court, a local court that had to do with a Supreme Court case, they will rule based on what the Supreme Court decided. So because it is the highest court, it has the most power. Their laws have the most power as well. If something is voted in the Supreme Court, it's considered the norm. It's considered a precedent. Everyone else will follow it. So the first case I would like to talk about is Meyer versus Nebraska. So cases are always this person versus this person. And when it's a state, that means that the state was against this person. So Meyer was the person that brought this case, and Nebraska was against them. So Nebraska passed a law saying that children couldn't learn any language other than English, which is pretty crazy since we live in a country where we welcome immigrants and we embrace people of different cultures. So the question is, does this break the Constitution? Are states allowed to say that children cannot learn other languages? And the verdict or the decision was yes, it did break the 14th Amendment, which is that citizens have freedom. And one of those freedoms is to learn another language. No one's getting hurt by learning another language. It's a right that we have as Americans. So this court decided that there should never be a reason for people to be refused to learn another language. The next one is the Brown versus Board of Education. So the Board of Education, a school district in certain states, were separating students based on skin color. So they had separate schools for white students and black students, and they could not mix them. And the question was, does this break the Constitution? And of course, the verdict was yes. This does break the Constitution. The 14th Amendment protects all citizens with equal rights, and the decision was that separate is not equal. In order for people to be equal, they must have the same thing. So having a separate school for different colored people is not allowed under the Constitution. And after this was passed, Ruby Bridges was the first student to be integrated into a school. And after that, it just became the norm. There were no more separate schools, separate drinking fountains, separate restaurants. People became integrated, and nobody was separated based on skin color. The next one is Tinker versus the school district in Illinois, so the Des Moines school district. And this was a group of students, and they wore these black armbands that are shown here, and they were simply wearing these armbands to show that they supported the Vietnam War ending. So they had a little peace sign on them. They were not causing a scene. They were not being disrespectful. They simply went to school wearing these armbands. And the question was it against the Constitution that these kids were kicked out of school? So their principal decided that they should not be allowed to be showing this at school, and they got kicked out. So the verdict was that's against the Constitution. Part of the First Amendment is that we have freedom of speech, which means that we can say what we want as long as it doesn't break the rules. and they were not breaking any rules. They were simply showing their support. And the last one I want to talk about is New Jersey versus TLO. And TLO was a high school student, and her bag was searched by her school principal, and the principal found some illegal substances, and she got in trouble. So the question was, is this school search, so schools searching students' belongings, is that against the Constitution? And the decision was no. Schools have the right to search within reason. So the student lost the case, and schools were given the precedent that they are allowed to search student belongings if they have a reason to. Okay. So that was just 4 important cases. There are so many more, but those were 4 that I pulled out that I thought would be important to you guys and important to the country as a whole. All right, your questions. Number 1, how many requests does the Supreme Court get every year? 2, how does it decide which cases to take? So how does the Supreme Court pick through those cases? What do they use to decide? Number 3, what is a precedent? Vocabulary term. Go back to that slide. Number 4, what state passed a law saying children couldn't learn a language other than English? So you got to look back at that case. Which state was it? Number 5, what was the question with Brown versus Board of Education? So what were they arguing? 6, what were the students showing support in for Tinker versus Des Moines School? Number 7, in New Jersey versus TLO. Sorry, I cut it off. What was the verdict? So in that New Jersey case, what did the Supreme Court decide? And then number 8, I would like you to choose one of those 4 cases and tell me which one is most important to you and why. Remember, these cases affect everyone. So which case do you think affects you? Which case do you think is important to you and why? I hope you guys had a wonderful week. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you on Monday. Goodbye, Adams.